Alex Winters took a deep breath as she straightened her formal diplomatic uniform. The blue and gold fabric represented 80 years of human cooperation with the Galactic Council. Today might be the day all that ended. The Grand Hall of Proxima Station stretched before her, its ceiling arching hundreds of feet overhead. The room was designed to make representatives of smaller species feel insignificant. Even for a tall human like Alex, the effect worked as intended. Around the circular table sat delegates from 27 spacefaring civilizations. Some looked almost human, while others resembled nothing Earth's oceans or jungles had ever produced. The Arcturian representative was merely a floating crystal sphere containing swirling gases. The Zorvan delegate, Elder Krillax, had skin like polished obsidian and forearms that moved with careful precision as he arranged data tablets before him. "The Council recognizes Earth Ambassador Alex Winters," announced the Council speaker, a tall being with pale blue skin. "You may present your petition." Alex stepped forward, her steps echoing across the silent chamber. "Honored representatives, I come before you for the third time to request military assistance for the human colonies in the Orion sector. In the past month alone, 3 more outposts have been attacked by Scourge pirates. The settlement on New Hope lost 5,000 lives when their environmental systems were destroyed." She tapped her wrist device and holographic images appeared above the table. Burned buildings, destroyed ships, bodies being recovered from ruins. These attacks follow the same pattern as those I reported in my previous visits. The pirates are becoming bolder, striking closer to heavily populated worlds. The Earth Defense Fleet is stretched thin trying to protect 17 colonies across 8 star systems. The Vegan delegate, a reptilian being with bright feathers along its neck, made a dismissive gesture. "Humans expanded too quickly. You established colonies in disputed regions despite warnings. None of those regions were disputed when we settled them," Alex countered, keeping her voice level. "And the Council approved every colony charter." "Perhaps," said the Arcturian sphere, its voice coming through translators as emotionless and flat. "But your evidence does not prove organized attacks. Pirates have always existed in frontier regions." Alex tapped her device again, bringing up flight path data. "These are not random attacks. The Scourge are targeting human settlements specifically, bypassing more vulnerable non-human outposts, and they are using military-grade weapons that should not be available to common criminals." The Council speaker raised a hand. "The question before us is not whether attacks have occurred, but whether this constitutes a threat requiring Council military response. Such action has significant implications." For 3 hours, Alex presented evidence, answered questions, and tried to make 27 different species understand the danger. Some seemed sympathetic. Most appeared bored or irritated by human problems. Finally, the vote was called. Alex stood with perfect stillness as each delegate registered their decision. The results appeared on her datapad. 0 votes for intervention, 27 against, not even 1 ally. "The Council has decided," the speaker announced. "The petition for military assistance is denied. We recommend Earth consolidate its colonial holdings to better defend them with existing resources. This session is concluded." Alex didn't move as the chamber emptied. Only when the last delegate had left did she allow her shoulders to slump slightly. "I watched the broadcast," said a voice behind her. Commander Jack Nelson of the Earth Defense Fleet stepped from the observation area. His uniform was simpler than Alex's diplomatic outfit, but the 4 stars on his collar showed his authority. "Pretty much what we expected. We gave them everything they asked for, Jack. Followed every rule. Shared our medical advances. Provided resources for their projects." Alex's voice remained controlled, but her hands had curled into fists. 80 years of cooperation, and they won't lift a finger when we need help." They walked together through the gleaming corridors of Proxima Station. Other species moved aside, some with respectful nods, others with what humans had learned to recognize as contempt. "The Defense Committee met yesterday," Jack said quietly as they entered a secure human-only area. "They've authorized Project Sentinel to move to active status." Alex stopped walking. "That violates at least 6 Council technology restrictions." It does, Jack agreed. The question is whether those restrictions still matter to us. They entered a small conference room where a secure link to Earth had been established. On the screen waited 5 people: the Earth President, the Defense Secretary, and 3 colonial governors whose worlds had suffered the worst attacks. Madam Ambassador, the President said, her face grave. We've reviewed your reports and anticipated today's vote. A decision must be made. For 2 hours they talked about options. Most were bad, some were worse, all had costs. The Council won't help us, said Governor Peters of New Hope Colony, his face still bearing burns from the attack. But they'll certainly punish us if we develop the weapons we need to defend ourselves. They can't have it both ways, Alex said. Either they protect us as members, or they let us protect ourselves. Eventually, they reached the only possible conclusion. The President turned to Alex. Ambassador Winters, you've served Earth faithfully in a thankless position. One final task remains. Tomorrow you will deliver our notice of withdrawal from the Galactic Council. Alex felt a strange mixture of dread and relief. There will be consequences, Madam President. Yes, the President agreed. But doing nothing has consequences too. Our people are dying while the Council debates. The next morning, Alex wore a simple black uniform with only the Earth insignia. The Grand Chamber fell silent as she walked to the center of the floor, unscheduled and unannounced. The United Worlds of Earth hereby withdraws from the Galactic Council and all associated agreements effective immediately, she stated, her voice firm and carrying to every corner of the vast room. We release ourselves from all Council restrictions and obligations. Earth will defend its people by any means necessary. Gasps and translated exclamations filled the chamber. The Council speaker rose. Ambassador Winters, this is highly irregular. Such action requires proper filing and a transition period of at least 1 standard year. No, Alex replied. We've studied the founding documents. Article 7 allows immediate withdrawal in cases where member security cannot be guaranteed. Yesterday's vote proves that condition. Without waiting for a response, Alex turned and walked from the chamber. Behind her, she heard the Council erupting into argument. Commander Nelson waited at the docking bay with their ship. It's done? He asked. It's done, Alex confirmed as they boarded. Earth stands alone now. As their ship pulled away from Proxima Station, Alex watched the massive structure through the viewport. For 80 years, humans had looked at the Council as the pinnacle of civilization. Now she saw it differently, as a beautiful cage they had finally escaped. Send word to all colonies, she told Nelson. Project Sentinel begins immediately. The ship accelerated toward the jump point. Behind them, the Council continued its debates, not yet understanding that everything had just changed. 3 years passed quickly. The galaxy changed in ways no one had predicted. Captain Samantha Reed stood on the bridge of the Hadi vessel Retribution, watching stars streak past the viewscreen. Her ship, once a simple Earth Defense Fleet cruiser, now carried systems that no Council inspector would recognize. The dark hull absorbed sensor scans instead of reflecting them. The weapons used principles the Council had forbidden humans to research. We're approaching the Carina Nebula, Captain, said Lieutenant Dan Porter from the navigation station. Scourge activity detected near the mining outpost. Samantha nodded. Bring us out of jump at Point Alpha. Silent running. Misridi slipped into normal space like a shadow. No energy pulse announced their arrival. No communication beacons activated. The ship simply appeared, completely invisible to standard scanners. Ahead, 3 Scourge vessels surrounded a small mining station. Their weapons had already disabled the station's outer defenses. Targets locked, reported Weapons Officer Lisa Klein. They don't know we're here. Open a channel to all ships in the area, Samantha ordered. Lisa looked up in surprise. Captain, that will give away our position. Exactly. Samantha straightened her uniform. These pirates need to understand things have changed. The communications. Officer nodded. Channel open. Attention, Scourge vessels. This is Captain Samantha Reed of the Human Autonomous Defense Initiative. You are engaged in illegal activities against civilians. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded." For a moment, nothing happened. Then all 3 pirate ships suddenly tried to run, engines flaring as they abandoned their attack on the mining station. "They're breaking formation," Dan reported, attempting to scatter. Samantha allowed herself a small smile. Fire warning shots across their paths. The Retribution's weapons had never been seen in this sector before. Pulses of energy that seemed to bend space itself flashed across the void, stopping just short of the fleeing ships. "Direct hit on their projected course," Lisa confirmed. "No, damage to the vessels." "Send the message again," Samantha ordered. This time the pirates responded. A harsh voice came through the speakers. "Human vessel, you are outside Council protection. Leave now or be destroyed." "I don't think you understand," Samantha replied calmly. "We're not asking permission. All 3 of your ships are already targeted. You've attacked human settlements for the last time." She made a cutting motion, and the communication ended. "They're charging weapons," Lisa reported. "Fire main batteries, disable their engines but leave life support intact." The Retribution's weapons fired again, this time striking with precision. All 3 Scourge ships suddenly went dark, drifting helplessly. "Boarding teams prepare for capture operation," Samantha ordered. "I want prisoners and data. Time to find out who's really behind these attacks." 2 hours later, Samantha sent a secure transmission to Earth. The Retribution had captured 15 pirates and recovered data cores from all 3 ships. More importantly, they had found Council-made weapons and navigation systems that should never have reached pirate hands. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out. Human ships appeared without warning wherever pirates threatened settlements. Unlike the Council, which spent months deliberating before acting, the Human Autonomous Defense Initiative struck fast and decisively. On Earth, Director Frank Powell reviewed reports in his office at Hattie headquarters. Screens around him showed successful operations against pirates in 7 different sectors. In just 3 years, humanity had done what the Council couldn't accomplish in decades. A soft chime announced a visitor. Greg Martinez, head of the Colonial Trade Commission, entered carrying data tablets. "The numbers are better than we hoped," Greg said, setting the tablets on Powell's desk. "Trade between human colonies is up 60% without Council tariffs, and non-human merchants are starting to bypass Council routes to deal directly with us." Powell nodded. "The Council threatened sanctions against anyone trading outside their systems. Are the aliens worried?" "Less each day." Greg sat down across from Powell. "The Cedians have already approached us about a direct trade agreement. The Council's import taxes were strangling their economy." "The Council never understood," Powell said, studying the trade figures. "They thought their rules and restrictions kept the peace, but they were just making everyone poorer and less secure." A priority message alert sounded. Powell tapped his screen, and the face of a woman appeared. Kelly Brown served as Earth's unofficial observer at Proxima Station since Alex Winter's dramatic departure 3 years earlier. "Director, the Council just finished an emergency session," Kelly reported. "They've voted to send inspector ships to human space. They claim they need to verify we aren't developing prohibited technologies." Powell and Martinez exchanged glances. "When will they arrive?" Powell asked. 5 Council enforcement vessels departed an hour ago. "They're heading for the colony on New Hope." Powell touched another control. "Alert all Hattie ships near New Hope. Tell them Council enforcers are coming. No hostile action unless they fire first." After Kelly's image disappeared, Greg looked concerned. "What will you do if they demand to inspect our ships?" "Nothing," Powell said simply. "The Council has no authority over us anymore. They still control most trade routes and hyperspace nodes. They could make things difficult." Powell smiled slightly. "For now. But Dr. Olivia Martinez on New Dakota is about to change that too." On the frontier world of New Dakota, Olivia Martinez stood before a strange device. It looked simple, just a sphere made of interlocking metal rings, but what it represented was revolutionary. "Energy input stable," reported her Cetian colleague, Dr. Ko. His long fingers moved over controls with impressive speed. "Field integrity at 100%. Olivia took a deep breath. Initiate test sequence. The rings began to spin, first slowly, then faster, until they became a blur. A small probe sat at the center of the sphere. Coordinates locked, Ko said. Targeting test point 1. The sphere suddenly flashed with blinding light. When Olivia could see again, the probe had vanished. For 30 seconds, no one in the lab spoke. Then a monitor beeped. Signal received, Ko announced, his normally calm voice excited. Probe has arrived at target destination. Perfect accuracy. The target was 10 light-years away. The trip had taken seconds, not days, and it had happened without using any Council-controlled hyperspace node. Olivia allowed herself to smile. Send the message to Earth. The Martinez co-drive works. The Council had maintained control of the galaxy for centuries because they controlled the hyperspace network. No ship could travel between stars without using Council-approved nodes and paying Council fees. Until today. As Olivia looked at the successful test results, she knew everything was about to change again. Humanity had not just survived outside the Council's protection. They were thriving, and the galaxy was noticing. 5 years had passed since humanity left the Galactic Council. The galaxy was changing faster than anyone expected. On the Council's Proxima station, an emergency meeting was underway. The Grand Chamber that once held delegates from over 200 species now had empty seats everywhere. The Council speaker looked tired as he called for order. The Cedian Alliance has officially informed us of their withdrawal, he announced. The chamber erupted in angry shouts and translated protests. That makes 17 member species that have left in the past year alone. Elder Krillax of the Zorvan Empire, one of the oldest council members, spoke slowly. Perhaps we should consider why so many are leaving instead of simply condemning them. We know why, snapped the Vegan representative. They are making deals with the humans. The Cedians are the worst traitors yet. They helped humans develop that cursed drive system that bypasses our hyperspace nodes. The Council had tried to stop the spread of the Martinez co-drive by declaring it unsafe. But ships equipped with the new drive didn't need Council permission to travel between stars. They didn't need to pay Council fees, and they moved 3 times faster than ships using the old hyperspace nodes. Our latest restrictions are not working, said the Arcturian delegate. More species simply ignore them. Perhaps we should reconsider our approach. Impossible. The Vegan slammed his scaled hand on the table. Next, you'll suggest we invite the humans back and apologize. On the frontier world of New Dakota, thousands of people gathered to watch the launch of the first commercial ship equipped with the Martinez co-drive. The vessel looked strange compared to traditional ships, with rings surrounding its central DR. Olivia Martinez stood on the viewing platform alongside representatives from 7 different alien species. None were supposed to be there according to Council rules. All had come anyway. The Council issued another warning yesterday, said the Cedian ambassador to Olivia. They claim our joint project violates at least 30 regulations. Olivia smiled. And yet your government sent you to watch the launch, along with representatives from 6 other loyal Council worlds. The Council doesn't understand that things have changed, the Cedian replied. They still think making more rules will solve everything. The ship rose silently from the ground. There was no flame or visible propulsion, just a slight distortion of air. It hovered briefly, then simply vanished with a flash of light. Screens around the viewing area showed the ship arriving instantly at Proxima Centauri, the nearest star to Earth's sun. The journey once took 3 days through Council hyperspace. It had just happened in seconds. The crowd cheered. The alien representatives looked at each other with expressions that translated across species as a mixture of awe and concern. Too fast, murmured the delegate from Altair. The Council will see this as a threat. The Council made humanity a threat, Olivia replied. We just wanted to protect our people. At Council Enforcement Command, Director Zelthron reviewed the latest failed operation. 5 enforcement vessels had attempted to blockade human space. All 5 were now drifting with disabled systems, their crews safely in escape pods, but their mission a complete disaster. They didn't even fire on us, reported the fleet captain from his medical bed. They used some sort of energy pulse that shut down all our systems simultaneously. No warning, no demands, they just turned us off. Zelthron had been tasked with bringing humanity back under Council control. After 2 years and 16 failed operations, he knew it was impossible. Humans had spent 5 years developing technologies the Council had forbidden. They had grown stronger while the Council grew weaker. "I am resigning my position," Zelthron told the Council later that day. "I cannot accomplish what you ask with the resources provided." "You have the entire enforcement fleet," protested the Vegan representative. "A fleet designed to intimidate compliant worlds, not fight an innovative enemy," Zelthron replied. "Humans operate as individuals yet coordinate perfectly. Our centralized approach cannot adapt fast enough." As he left the chamber, Zelthron counted 23 empty seats. The council that had ruled the galaxy for centuries was literally shrinking before his eyes. On Earth, Director Frank Powell met with representatives from 30 former council worlds. None of them were supposed to be talking to humans according to council regulations. All had come anyway. "The decentralized value exchange system is ready," Powell told them. "It will allow direct trade between all our worlds without using galactic credits or council financial networks." An ambassador from Tau Ceti leaned forward. "If we adopt this system, the council will impose sanctions." "They already have," Powell replied. "Has it stopped anyone here from trading with Earth?" The representatives looked at each other. Every world in the room had increased its trade with human colonies. Many had formed direct alliances. Some had withdrawn from the council entirely. "The DVE goes live next week," Powell continued. "Any world that wishes to join is welcome. There are no membership fees, no central control authority, and no political requirements." The Tau Ceti ambassador sighed. "The council will call this a declaration of economic war." "Perhaps," Powell agreed. "But they started this conflict when they refused to protect those who needed help. In human space, things were changing too. The colonies that had once been vulnerable to pirate attacks were now the safest places in the galaxy. Hattie ships patrolled regularly, responding to any threat within hours, not weeks. More surprising to everyone, human space had become a neutral ground, where species that had ancient conflicts could meet safely. Earth had no old grudges, no historical vendettas against alien species. Humans enforced simple rules equally for everyone: no violence, no theft, fair trade. On the colony world of New Hope, once the site of the worst pirate attack, a new diplomatic exchange center had been built. Species that hadn't spoken directly to each other in generations now met there, with humans serving as neutral mediators. The council had always claimed its complex rules and centralized authority were necessary for peace. Humans were proving otherwise. At Proxima Station, Elder Krillax of the Zorvan Empire watched the latest council session descend into arguments. Only 79 species remained from the original 212. Emergency sessions happened. "Weekly now. We must increase restrictions," insisted the Vegan representative. "Force members to comply or face penalties." Krillax had seen this pattern before in the long history of his people. When power started to slip away, those holding it always tried to grip tighter. It never worked. He had warned them 5 years ago when humanity left. No one had listened then. No one was listening now. As the argument continued, Krillax made his decision. The Zorvan Empire, founding member of the Galactic Council, would be the next to leave. The galaxy was changing. The old order was crumbling. And humanity, once dismissed as primitive newcomers, had somehow become the center of a new galactic alignment. 8 years had passed since humanity walked away from the Galactic Council. The galaxy was in chaos, but not the kind the Council had feared. Old systems were falling apart while new ones took their place. On the financial hub world of Arcturus, Prime, panic spread through the trading floors. For centuries, the galactic credit had been the only accepted currency across Council space. Now its value was collapsing as worlds rushed to convert their reserves to the human decentralized value exchange. "The Council Banking Commission has frozen all transfers," announced a nervous Arcturian official to the crowd of angry traders. "This is only temporary until stability returns." No one believed him. 6 major worlds had already abandoned the credit system entirely. 40 more had begun the process. The financial network that had tied the galaxy together was unraveling strand by strand. In his private office above the trading floor, High Commissioner Drelvar of the Council Banking Authority stared at screens showing market collapses across 12 sectors. Everything he had worked for was disintegrating before his eyes. An aide entered cautiously. "Sir, the Council is demanding an emergency meeting. They want solutions." "There are no solutions," Drelvar said quietly. "We built a system that required absolute control. Once that control slipped, collapse was inevitable." The aide left. Drelvar turned to his personal terminal and began typing his final message. When he finished, he opened a drawer and removed a small device that had been illegal in Council space for centuries, a personal phase disruptor. "We built our power on the premise that coordination requires control," he wrote in his last words. "Humans proved that diversity and independence create stronger systems than uniformity and compliance." The discovery of his body the next day sent shockwaves through what remained of the Council. The collapse of the credit system accelerated. On Proxima Station, Elder Krillax stood before the Council to make a historic announcement. The chamber was nearly half empty now. "The Zorvan Empire, founding member of this Council, hereby withdraws from all agreements and treaties," he stated formally. "We will establish direct relations with Earth and join the decentralized exchange." Uproar filled the chamber. The Council speaker pounded his ceremonial staff for order. "This is outrageous. The Zorvan Empire cannot abandon the very institution it helped create." Krillax turned his ancient eyes to the speaker. "This institution abandoned its purpose long ago. It exists now only to maintain its own power, not to serve its members." As Krillax walked from the chamber, others followed. By day's end, 17 more species had announced their withdrawal. The Council that had ruled for centuries now represented less than 1/4 of the galaxy's spacefaring civilizations. Without its founding member, without its financial system, and with its authority ignored by more worlds each day, the Council began to crumble rapidly. The Council Defense Fleet, once the most powerful force in the galaxy, could no longer patrol even its core territories. Ships that had enforced Council will for generations were now mothballed due to lack of funds and crews. In the power vacuum, old dangers reemerged. Pirates that had once been contained to the fringes now operated boldly in former Council core systems. Worlds that had relied on Council protection found themselves vulnerable. On the former Council stronghold of Vega Prime, mobs attacked government buildings as food shortages spread. The Council had controlled all supply chains for so long that many worlds had forgotten how to trade directly with each other. Meanwhile, in human space, a different story unfolded. Colonial worlds once threatened by pirates were now thriving, centers of commerce. The Martinez Code Drive had made travel between stars easier than ever before. Trade flourished without Council tariffs and restrictions. On Earth, Director Frank Powell received an unexpected message. The Council, in a stunning reversal, was requesting humanitarian assistance for worlds facing shortages after the financial collapse. "They expect us to help after everything they did?" asked his assistant in disbelief. Powell looked thoughtful. "This isn't about the Council. It's about helping people who are suffering because their leaders failed them." Within days, human ships, loaded with supplies, were heading for worlds that had once scorned Earth's membership in the Council. At Powell's insistence, no political demands were attached to the aid. On Proxima Station, once the proud headquarters of the Council, human negotiator Michelle Garcia led a delegation offering more than just immediate help. "Earth remembers what it means to stand alone," she told the assembled representatives of struggling worlds. "We don't offer dominion, only partnership." The terms were simple: open borders, free trade, mutual defense, and respect for local governance. There would be no central authority dictating rules to everyone. Each world would maintain its own laws and customs while agreeing to basic principles that allowed cooperation. "This is not a new council," Michelle explained. "We call it the Interstellar Cooperative because that's what it is: worlds working together by choice, not by force." Many representatives looked skeptical. They had known only the Council's way for generations. Some feared this was just humanity's attempt to replace the Council with its own empire. "How do we know you won't simply become the new tyrants once you have power?" asked the representative from Altair. Michelle smiled. "Because we're not asking anyone to give up power. Keep your sovereignty. Keep your military. All we ask is that you talk to your neighbors directly instead of through intermediaries." As the talks continued, reports arrived from across former Council space. The situation was deteriorating faster than anyone had anticipated. Without the Council's bureaucracy maintaining connections between worlds, ancient suspicions were re-emerging. Border incidents were increasing. "We need to act quickly," Michelle told Earth. "The collapse is happening faster than we predicted." On the edges of what had once been secure Council space, the first open conflicts in centuries had begun. 3 systems had already declared war on former rivals. Without Council peacekeepers, there was nothing to stop the fighting from spreading. Human. Ships once forbidden in Council core systems now moved freely through former Council space. They carried not weapons but negotiators, engineers, and supplies. Where Council enforcers had once demanded compliance, humans offered assistance without strings. Most surprising to the former Council worlds was that human ships protected everyone equally, even those who had voted against helping Earth 8 years before. "Why help those who once abandoned you?" asked the Altair representative. Michelle Garcia's answer was simple. "Because that's how we build something better than what came before." As the former Council continued to fracture, humanity emerged not as conquerors but as the center of a new network, one built on mutual benefit rather than central control. The galaxy that had once rejected them now looked to humans for solutions. The Council was crumbling, but from its ruins something new was beginning to take shape. A decade had passed since humanity walked away from the Galactic Council. The old order was gone. In its place, something new had taken root and was beginning to flourish. Admiral Kevin Wilson stood on the observation deck of the Earth diplomatic vessel Peace, watching ships arrive from across the galaxy. Today marked the formal inauguration of the Galactic Concordat, a new form of interstellar cooperation, unlike anything that had come before. Kevin had been a junior officer when Alex Winters delivered Earth's withdrawal notice to the Council 10 years ago. Now he commanded Earth's diplomatic fleet and represented humanity at this historic gathering. "Quite a change from the old days," said a familiar voice behind him. Kevin turned to see Elder Krillax of the Zorvan Empire approaching slowly, his forearms moving with the careful precision of great age. "Elder Krillax," Kevin greeted him with the traditional Zorvan gesture of respect. "I'm honored you could join us." "I would not miss this moment," the Elder replied. "Few get to see the birth of a new galactic age. Fewer still help create it." Together they watched as vessels of all shapes and sizes entered orbit around the neutral world of harmony. Some were sleek and clearly advanced. Others showed the signs of difficult years since the Council's collapse. All had come by choice, not compulsion. The old Council believed stability came from rigid control, Kevin observed. They forgot that evolution requires both cooperation and competition. Humans never forgot because Earth's history taught us that lesson repeatedly. Krillax nodded slowly. "I warned them when you left. No one listened. Control creates the illusion of stability, but it prevents adaptation. When change finally comes, it happens all at once, often catastrophically." On the planet below, representatives from 173 spacefaring civilizations gathered in the newly constructed Concordat Hall. Unlike the imposing council chamber designed to make delegates feel small, this building was built on a human scale with simple beauty and natural materials. Michelle Garcia, now Earth's senior diplomat, stood at the central podium. Behind her sat not just leaders of powerful worlds but representatives from even the smallest colonies and most distant outposts. 10 years ago, humanity stood alone. Michelle began, her voice carrying to every corner of the hall. Today, no world stands alone unless it chooses to. The Galactic Concordat is not a government. It is a promise between equals. She touched a control, and the Concordat Charter appeared on screens throughout the hall. It was remarkably short compared to the thousands of pages of council regulations. freedom of travel, freedom of trade, freedom of culture. These are not privileges to be granted by authority, but rights to be respected by all. Michelle continued. The Concordat exists to protect these rights, not to rule those who hold them. The signing ceremony took hours as each world's representative added their mark to the charter. Some used electronic signatures, others brought sacred seals or performed traditional rituals. The Concordat embraced these differences rather than demanding uniformity. Meanwhile, across former council space, the changes of the past decade were evident everywhere. The Scourge Pirates, once the catalyst for humanity's departure, were now a distant memory. Criminal organizations that had thrived under council corruption found no place in the new order. In their place, mixed species exploration, teams ventured into previously uncharted regions of the galaxy. Human adaptability combined with the specialized knowledge of other species created unprecedented scientific advancements. On the medical research station orbiting Tau Ceti, human doctors worked alongside Zorvan biologists and Cetian geneticists to cure diseases that had plagued multiple species for centuries. Without council restrictions on research, breakthroughs happened monthly instead of over decades. The Martinez Code Drive, once forbidden technology, had transformed into the foundation of a new transportation network that connected even the most distant colonies. Where the Council had centralized all travel through controlled hyperspace nodes, the new network was distributed, resilient, and constantly improving. Most remarkable of all were the cultural exchanges. Species that had known each other only through Council filters now shared art, music, literature, and philosophy directly. New hybrid forms emerged that would have been impossible under the old restrictions. After the ceremony on Harmony, Admiral Wilson gave Elder Krillax a tour of the peace. Unlike Council diplomatic vessels designed to intimidate, the human ship emphasized comfort, efficiency, and open spaces. I must confess, Krillax said as they entered the ship's garden. When humanity left the Council, many of us expected you to either collapse without our protection or return begging for readmission. Kevin smiled. Some on Earth feared the same. Instead, you showed us all a different path, the Elder continued. For centuries, the Council claimed only they could prevent chaos. You proved that free beings, acting in their own interest, create better order than any central authority could impose. Above them on a view screen, images showed the former Council chambers being renovated into the new Concordat Hall of Voices, where even the smallest worlds would have equal right to be heard. Will it last? Kevin asked honestly. The Council endured for nearly 2,000 years. It endured, Krillax agreed, but it did not live. It preserved a static order that resisted all change. That is not life, but merely suspended animation. The Elder moved to the viewport, looking out at the gathered ships. This Concordat may change form many times in the centuries to come. It may occasionally stumble or struggle, but it will adapt. It will evolve. And that gives it a much better chance of true longevity than the rigid Council ever had. As they returned to the observation deck, news arrived that the final signings were complete. The Galactic Concordat was officially established. Throughout the galaxy, beings of all species celebrated what many had thought impossible just a decade before. Humanity didn't destroy the galaxy by leaving, Elder Krillax reflected, watching the celebrations on the screens around them. You forced it to evolve by reminding us what governance should truly be. Not control, but service. Kevin nodded, thinking back to the desperate days after Earth's withdrawal, when many had feared humans had made a terrible mistake. We only wanted to protect our people, and in doing so, you protected us all, the Elder replied, not through force, but through example. As day turned to night on Harmony, the lights of thousands of ships illuminated the sky like new constellations. The galaxy had crumbled, just as the Council had feared. But from those ruins, something stronger, more flexible, and more alive had emerged. Humanity had abandoned the Galactic Council, and in doing so, they had helped the galaxy find its true potential.